going to move on to the last section. I think audiences, a lot of times, they wonder if all of this stuff is true and I can decrease my sugar and get off some of my medications and all these sort of things, then why hasn't my doctor told me? And I'll tell you not to be too hard on your doctor, because in the world, there are really only two kinds of doctors in my experience. There are those who've had a personal experience with a low carbohydrate diet like me. The reason I got involved with this was because, number one, 4 years ago, my wife was kicking me out of bed because I was snoring so loud she couldn't sleep. And it's because I got too fat. And at that point, I was 213.5 pounds. I cut the carbohydrates out of my diet and lost 40 pounds, and I've kept the carbohydrates off ever since then. So is it sustainable? I've been doing it 4 years. I don't know if I'll do it. You check back with me in 40 years and we'll see how sustainable it is, right? But in 4 years, it's long enough to really control your sugar. One thing that Mike had mentioned is that he had heart disease. For every 1% decrease in your hemoglobin A1C, for every 1 point decrease in your hemoglobin A1C, your heart disease risk goes down by 45%. That's published by the American Diabetes Association. So for him, he went from 8.8 to 5.6. How does that look for improving your heart disease risk? So I'm going to play a quick video now, and just to kind of address the fact that doctors, unless they have a personal experience with a low carbohydrate diet, they don't really know about it. And so this is a doctor with his experience on a low carbohydrate diet.
Is it possible to cure type 2 diabetes? Some people say it's impossible, other people are doing it. My name is Andreas Enfeldt from dietdoctor.com, and my guest today is Dr. Jay Wortman. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I know we've done an interview before, and I know you have a fascinating story. How did you become interested in diet and lifestyle and health? How did it start for you?
I'm a medical doctor, and I practiced clinical medicine for a while, and I was quite familiar with diabetes at the time. And then I got working in public health administration and then eventually research. But along the way, I wasn't taking very good care of myself. I gained weight and so on. And I also had a family history of diabetes. So there's a lot of diabetes in my mother's side of the family. My grandparents, my mother, some of my siblings, some of my mother's siblings had diabetes. So I had a strong family history. And you would think as a doctor, you would understand these risks and take better care, but maybe because of the stress of my job, that might be one of my excuses. I let myself develop type 2 diabetes. And I think I was in denial, because when I realized that I had type 2 diabetes, I tested myself and figured it out. I had all the symptoms. I had blurred vision, I was tired, I was overweight, I was getting up in the night to go to the bathroom, I was thirsty all the time. I had all the symptoms before it finally dawned on me that I probably had type 2 diabetes, and then I tested, and of course my blood sugar was very high. And
so you're a doctor and you got this disease yourself. How did that feel? How did you react to that?
Even though it was obviously developing over time and everything, when it finally dawned on me, it was very shocking. I felt quite stunned that how could I be so stupid, and how could I not have noticed, and why did it take me to figure it out? But probably the biggest thing that upset me was that I had a young son. He was 2 years old, my first child. I was 52 at the time, and I know too much about diabetes. I know about the life expectancy is shorter, risk of complications, high risk of cardiovascular disease. You know too much as a doctor, and all these thoughts were in my mind that, I wasn't going to live long enough to see my young son grow up. I was having very dark thoughts about it. And what happened was, because I had not been doing clinical practice for a while, I felt that I should read up a bit, get up to date on diabetes treatment, and essentially figure out which drug I should be on. And I needed some time to do that. And I knew I didn't want my blood sugar to be too high during this time while I was, trying to figure out what to do. So I decided that I would stop eating carbohydrates because I knew carbohydrates makes your blood sugar go up. But during my training and during my practice, it had never occurred to me that you would eliminate diabetes as a therapy for diabetes. That you would eliminate carbohydrates as a therapy for diabetes. It never occurred to me that that was a therapy.
So that's an advice you never gave your patients, or?
I've never been taught that. The guidelines don't say that. You don't treat patients that way. It was not something that ever occurred to me.
But still you did it for yourself.
And I didn't do it as a therapy. I did it just to buy some time. I didn't want my blood sugar to go too high until I figured out which drug to take.
So what happened when you did that?
As soon as I stopped eating carbohydrates, my blood sugar normalized. I felt better. My symptoms all went away. And I started losing about 1 pound of weight a day.
That's much. That's a lot, huh?
It was, yeah. It surprised me, yes. I've always been taught that you shouldn't lose weight too rapidly. And that's probably because unless you do a low-carb diet, you can't.
Yeah. So when you say you stopped eating carbohydrates, what are the specific foods that you quit eating?
I stopped eating all starchy foods, pasta, potatoes, rice, bread, and anything that was sweet, all sugar-containing foods, including fruit. I didn't eat fruit.
So what did you eat?
I ate meats and fish and poultry and dairy fats, butter, cream, cheese, and lots of non-starchy vegetables.
Okay. So you felt better immediately, you say, and you lost a lot of weight?
Within a few days, all those symptoms were gone, and my sense of well-being had improved. I felt better, I had more energy, my sense of doom and gloom started to go away. Mm-hmm.
But you were kind of imagining this as a short-term fix, or to get ready to read up on the disease and all the drugs and so on. But that's not really how it turned out.
That's not how it turned out. I got so well within a few days that I got curious about this and why, trying to understand why was this working so well, and I'd never learned about it. I'd never been taught about this. And so I started looking a little bit into the literature to see if there was any research in this area.
So I'll just say, don't be too hard on your doctor, because just like this Dr. Wortman, it never even occurred to him in his clinical practice that he could tell people to reduce carbohydrates as a method of treating their diabetes. And he just did it himself to see if he could keep his sugar low long enough to find out which drug to take, until he got so well he didn't need any. So, the other thing is that by improving your blood sugars and improving your diabetes, you will be the personal experience that will teach your doctor that it can happen. I've gotten to the point now to where there's enough people coming through the program who see the same doctor that the doctor, sometimes they call me and say, well, what's going on here? And so you'll be their personal experience, so they will have an experience. And so as we near the end, I hope that we've met our goals. Number one, to give you some practical tools that you can take home to start reversing your diabetes right now. And number two, to give you hope that you can do it. That you don't have to be a victim to diabetes. Instead, you can absolutely conquer your diabetes. You can conquer that disease. At the end of your handout, you'll see a little thing called additional resources. And under additional resources, there's listed the Metabolic Coaching Program. That's the program I teach on Fridays. There's also listed some excellent books. There's Dr. Atkins' Diabetes Revolution and Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution. If you want to read some books that will really go into depth about low carbohydrate diet, what to eat, what not to eat, about diabetes medications and how to reverse your diabetes with diet, both of those This event was presented by Metabolic Coaching, the course that I teach. The very last page, if you haven't torn off this last page that has comment form on it yet, it's the last page on your hand. I'll ask you to please tear it off because you're going to leave it here. Either leave it in your chair or leave it on the table on the way out. If you'll please fill in the comment form, I'll read every single comment personally. At the bottom, if you have questions, and usually there are a lot of questions at the end. If you have questions, you write them on the bottom and send them to me. You can put your email down here and I'll email you back and answer, okay? As a bonus for everybody who's come, everybody who's registered, I'm going to send you a low-carb recipe once a week. It'll be an email with a low-carb recipe. These are the same ones that I give out in the metabolic coaching class. If you don't want me to send you an email once a week with a recipe, then just write down on the bottom, no email or no recipe. Indicate that you don't want to receive it, okay? And put your email there. I have everybody's email on the list, from your registration. If you don't want to, just put your name and email and say you don't want it. That's a bonus thing I'll give out. If you are interested in taking the course that most of the speakers have taken, the metabolic coaching course, then on the back of the comment form, you can just put your name, your email, your cell phone, and the course date and time you'd be interested in, and I'll pre-register you that way. At the very end, I would like to once again, please say thank you to all of the speakers who came and spoke today. I would also like to say thank you to the volunteers because people came and they helped check in, and that's all volunteer work. And thank you to Doug, who has helped to get things set up, and also Taylor, the medical student. You stand up. And thank you to Taylor, the medical student. And also to the sponsors, because the sponsors are the ones who allowed me to reach all of you guys. So. Thank you so much. I want everybody to go out there and not just reverse your diabetes, but absolutely conquer the disease. Leave your comment forms here. I think you all do wonderful, and thank you very much.